Hey everyone, welcome back to our neck pain edition of They Don't Tell You. The first condition that we're going to talk about, and it's one of the most common causes of neck pain that I see in my practice, is actually facet joint arthropathy. Now I need to back up just a minute and kind of talk about where these facet joints originally get injured. We can have acute injury, and you can think of that in whiplash type injuries. If you're in a car accident and the head accelerates forward, decelerates, and then accelerates backward in a very quick fashion, that stresses those joints. It damages the ligaments that are supposed to hold those joints in place. But more commonly, we actually see this in chronic conditions like we used to call it military neck, where the neck becomes very straight and you lose the curve, placing daily stress on the joints in the neck. And more commonly now, we're actually calling it tech neck. So a lot of you are probably sitting on your phone or at your computer watching this video, and just take a look at how you're sitting. Are your shoulders rolled forward? Is your neck kind of bent forward over your phone or at your computer? That's where most of us find ourselves on a day-to-day basis. The body has two different stabilizing mechanisms at each joint. There's their static stabilizers, which are your ligaments that are supposed to hold that joint in its natural resting position. And then you have your dynamic stabilizers, so the musculature in the area that allows for the motion at each joint. When we think about the neck and we have that chronic forward head carriage, we're stressing the ligaments. And you can think about a ligament, I've made this analogy in previous videos, you can think about ligaments like a rubber band. If you have your chronic head forward position, those ligament rubber bands are chronically stretched into the wrong position. And then when you try to bring them back, they don't snap back to their original position. And so you get this extra stress on the dynamic stabilizers in the area, those muscles that are providing that motion. They're now having to pick up extra work to keep the joints in a correct position and bring that head back. We a lot of times see this present as spasming in the neck. So if you do the extreme sport of sleeping and then you wake up, feel like you just slept wrong in the bed, and all of a sudden your neck is all spasmed and seized and you don't really know why. A lot of times that's because the facet joint has become irritated because of that excess motion, because we've damaged the ligament either through acute whiplash injury or forward head carriage. And now the muscle is angry. You can think of the muscle like any office employee, right? Everyone comes up to work, they do their job, and a lot of times people who are good at their job are asked to do other people's jobs. No one really likes that, right? Your muscles are the same. If they're being asked to do the ligaments job on top of their job, they get angry and they go on strike and they cause muscle spasms. So this is actually an acute presentation of a chronic underlying condition. Now, this can also sometimes cause what we call radicular symptoms. So we talked about that in the first video. What is a radicular symptom? Is a symptom down into the attached extremity. So in this case, the arm. And why that happens is because that muscle spasm will pinch down on the nerves that are exiting from the neck down into the arm. We'll pop a little picture of the different patterns in the arm and how that leads us to what joints are actually affected, and the pattern presentation of any numbness, tingling, weakness in the extremity. You should also be checking for reflexes, because that can also give us some information about what joints are affected, what nerves may be affected in this chronic presentation. So in the conventional world, you might think about steroid injections. Steroid injections definitely do have their time and place. They're excellent at reducing inflammation, which will help reduce the pain associated with this. However, long-term steroids are really not doing you any favors. They will reduce temporarily the pain, but they're not repairing any damage to the joint. So you're not fixing that ligament instability, you're not bringing the body back into a natural position, and it actually can cause more long-term damage than good. One of the reasons that you can only receive a certain number of steroid injections is that steroids will actually break down the tissue that they come into contact with. And they don't do this in a controlled manner, they do this in a very just kind of blanket manner. And so they actually limit the number of steroid injections that you can receive in a year, because we know through studies that this will continue to degrade and break down the joint, making the problem worse in the long run. So you may think, oh great, now what are my options? One of the best tools in the toolbox of regenerative medicine is prolotherapy. If you've watched any of our other series, we've talked kind of at length about prolotherapy. But just as a recap, prolotherapy is a proliferative injection therapy. So we actually go into and around the joint, and we cause a little bit of micro damage. I've come up with an analogy that patients seem to like and understand, and it's the controlled burn analogy. So if you think of maintaining forests, right? Especially living out in California, Arizona, we're all pretty familiar with this. To keep a forest healthy, you need to go and controlled burn some unhealthy trees. That way, if a raging forest fire is coming through, it actually provides some stops and some barriers, and allows for some natural regrowth of the forest. And so what we're doing is creating tiny little micro damage that then allows the tissue to rebuild and regrow. How it does that is, with that micro damage, we're asking the immune system to come in and lay down new collagen. Collagen being the main component of those ligaments that we talked about just a little bit ago. When we start laying down that collagen, it strengthens those ligaments back up and helps us kind of bring everything back to where it's supposed to be. Now, if I go in with injections and repair that collagen, you'll feel great, but we really need to also work in conjunction with a really talented physical therapist so that we can get ergonomics at the desk better, or get the back of the shoulders strengthened so you can open up that front chest, bring the head back into a good position, and we stop doing the long-term damage to those ligaments and the joints. So I hope that all made sense. If you have any questions, feel free to drop them in the comments, or call and schedule a free 15-minute consultation. And if you know anyone that might benefit from this information, feel free to like, comment, and share.